Hello and welcome to Ask Me Anything ESG live stream. My name is Lijin Chin, and I am the host for today to answer all your questions that you may have about ESG. So, if you do have any questions, do drop it into the chat, and I'll definitely get on to answering them. So, for those of you who are joining me for the first time, yes, this is the first time that I am doing a live stream, and why I decided to do it was because there's been more and more people sort of telling me that it's been very hard to actually find someone who can just candidly answer their ESG questions in a way that is not so technical, that is not so doom and gloom. It's not going to be a guilt trip. And also that, they want more real life examples because truth be told, it's very common when you actually talk to anyone about ESG that the first reaction that people give is that, oh, it's something, far, far away from me, not related to me. And that this is, something that you do if you have time, if you have charity, if you have money. And for those of you who know me, I am a great lover of um, Chinese drama or even Korean drama, Japanese drama, etc. And very often, in those dramas, you tend to see people sort of reach a turning point in the story, where conflict starts to happen. And there would be somebody that made a decision that actually creates a lot of impact on other people's lives. So, in typical, olden day Chinese drama, then it could be that there was a corrupt official, or maybe there was a businessman who decided that they would use a certain way to produce their products, and because of that, either somebody lost their livelihoods, or they were treating people so bad that eventually people revolted, and the story sort of changes, right? And it creates the struggle. That's why the drama series can continue. So at every one of those points where there is that struggle, there is actually a ESG topic. So it's not actually that far away from our day-to-day lives. um just give you an example. Okay, imagine if this piece of clothing that you wore, you know actually, you found out that this piece of clothing came from a place where people weren't paid well, or maybe when they go to work, they're constantly in fear, or maybe that they were forced into working at that place and they didn't have a way that they could escape, right? So it's not like a typical employment. This is what people would say, oh, this is around the human rights, right? Around forced labor, around your working conditions. And that actually is where things like the SDG Sustainable Development Goals, talking about inequalities, about how our economic development happens. So I think SDG Goal 8, SDG Goal 5, these are the things that would pop up, right? So it might seem like, whoa, so much jargon, SDG, goal this, goal that. But actually, at the end of the day, we're talking about how our actions actually impact our own lives and also other people's lives. Yeah. So ESG is actually not that far away from day to day life. Now, maybe some of you saw my recent post about this whole thing about ESG reporting. And it sounds like, whoa, stock exchange, they're adopting new standards. And here I'm going to pass you even more ABC soup. They use standards like the IFRS, S1, S2 standards, or maybe they're following the GRI standards. It's like, come on, man. So many acronyms. I remember I went to this public consultation. Yeah. And the public consultation was titled something along the lines of how to enable more SMEs to adopt ESG. And I remember after lots of talk by different people, including our association, about giving feedback on to the people who were attending. I remember there was this guy who suddenly raised his hand and he stood up and he said, I belong to the group of companies that are laggards in ESG because I don't even know what you guys have been talking about in the last hour, right? This standard, that standard, this framework, that framework. What's it got to do with my business? And so if you guys are going to wear this high and mighty hat, and say how amazing ESG is with all these big words that I hardly understand, then there's no point of me actually doing ESG because I don't see how it's related to me. And that's when it really, really hit me, it really, really hit me that we're not actually meeting people where they are starting at. Now, of course, if we had the opportunity to talk to this person and understand what he cares about in his life, right? It could be family. I mean, he's a second generation business owner. So obviously family and family legacy is something very important to him. If we could understand where his story came from, like how did he even get involved in the business? Why did it become so important with him? And even personally as well, why certain things would be something that is most important to him. If we could actually have those conversations and then bring ESG into the level that people can understand because it resonates with what they care about, then ESG isn't actually that complicated or that scary or that far away or completely unrelated to business. Because what is business? At the core of it, business is solving a problem while profiting from it, right? So if any of you have actually met somebody who is your client or maybe somebody you're trying to convince who says, ESG is not related to me, then I'd love to maybe give you this question um, to ponder, which is okay. So, what is it that you do care about? Tell me, right? Because it is in those moments that we actually can meet them where they are and bring ESG into their world. Okay, okay. So somebody submitted a question before we started, and the question actually was actually what is ESG stand for? Like I know it's supposed to be something related to the planet and the people, so but what is actually ESG? Okay, okay. Let's rewind a little bit. So ESG stands for environment, social, and governance. Okay. And these are the sort of three pillars that hold up this concept that if we did these three parts really well, um, it would allow us to not only live our lives well, but also allow our future generations to also have the ability to live their lives well. Okay, so it's really about humans at the end of the day. Okay, so if anyone out there was thinking, wait, I thought ESG is about saving the planet. Let me please correct you now. The planet will be fine without humans. Absolutely fine without humans. They may have the planet Earth may go through a period of, icing over and then eventually warming back again, and it's completely fine. What's not fine is us humans needing to experience that or being able to survive experiencing that. Okay. Now, if you look at the way that life has changed on our planet for whenever it started, you can see that there have been mass extinctions before. I mean, people keep saying we're going towards the third mass extinction. Okay. So it's in a way natural that things will change in that way. Okay? So don't get too worried about that because planet Earth actually doesn't need you to be saving. Okay? Planet Earth can handle itself. The thing is that we can't handle planet Earth when it's trying to handle itself. So let me give you an analogy. Okay. Imagine you have your phone, smartphone, okay? And you're trying to download some apps and you really, really like a particular app that can help you do something, okay? But your operating system doesn't like the app. Maybe the app uses too much energy and makes it have a fever. Yeah. So when your phone gets too hot, it will shut down the app. It will keep not wanting to update the app, it will want to make you delete the app. Yeah, because it's going to get fever every time you use it. So when the operating system of the phone goes kaput or doesn't work anymore, then your app also cannot work anymore. Unless maybe you go and find a new phone lah, which is what some people are trying to do with finding a new planet to go and establish human colony on. Not impossible. Definitely one of the solutions out there. Um, but as an Earth dweller for myself, I would consider how I can work with this iOS system so that the app that I like that delivers a certain value for me can also survive in this operating system of my phone. And at the same time, the phone doesn't have a fever and die faster, lah, right? So if you look at it in the same way that our Earth behaves, our climate system is the operating system, is the iOS of your phone, right? And when Earth actually heats up to a certain level, there are going to be certain parts of it that's going to like start having fever lah. What happens when you have fever? What happens when you have fever? You can type in the chat if you want. With apart from feeling shit, your body goes into a certain way to regulate itself, right? So it's going to need you have a lot more water, right? Try and get the heat out. um, it might actually close down certain functions in your body in order to protect the most critical body parts, right? To keep you going. And that's essentially what we're seeing with the whole climate change that's happening, right? The Earth system is doing what it can to deal with this fever and essentially change how we experience the world because it's trying to handle itself. Okay. So when we look at these three pillars, okay, don't take it as like you're saving the planet because you're not. You're saving yourself as the human experiencing this planet. Okay. So these three pillars are environment, social, and governance. So environment, essentially what we're talking about is looking at this wider ecosystem in which we live in, right? So what is going to change our experience of um, what we breathe in, what we eat, what we touch, and also how hot it is around us, whether we have water, whether we can grow food, right? So when we talk about the environment pillar, we're really trying to work with what is the conditions that is available, so that the experiences of generating food, of getting water, of breathing, of living, of doing activities is going to be different. Okay, right. Now the social pillar comes back to that example that I was starting off today's live stream with, which was essentially talking about um, the people, because we don't just live in isolation, right? We actually live in communities, we live in society, we live in economies. There's always some sort of interaction with other people, like it or not. Every person that's born has to interact to some extent with family, right? And therefore, when we start looking into the social pillar, we're trying to say, what is it that we are building in place in the human part of the iOS so that the experiences of us getting the food, breathing, doing activities, living the life that we want can actually be something that generates more positiveness to everybody else and not just yourself, right? Because we are not isolated beings. We not only impact other people, we actually rely on other people as well. So that's the social pillar. And that's why for the social pillar, there will be things like human resource, work conditions, talking about forced labor, about working with dignity, about inequalities between men and women, about gender wage gaps, and things like that. Okay. And the governance pillar, which is the third pillar in this whole ESG thing, actually is it plays two roles from my perspective. Okay. The first one is that number one, how do you even know that when someone says, I'm doing something to make this environment and the social pillar better, you can actually trust them. How do you know? How do you know you can trust them? You know because it's not just to their whim and fancy. They would have documented something, right? They would have measured something. There would be some sort of proof that is systematically collected, and other people can also collect it in the same way. That's why you can trust them. And that's why this whole governance pillar becomes very important, because actually it is part of the currency of trust, that whatever that's done in the environment and social pillar isn't just luck of the draw or a particular character in the organization's whim and fancy. They want to do it in a particular way, and then you go and pursue it. Which brings me to the second function of why the governance pillar is so important. Because very often, change doesn't happen instantaneously, right? Unlike a light switch, unfortunately, things don't go switch and then it's on and then, yeah, 100% you're there, right? It takes time. There's compounding, there is a journey that happens. But what happens when those characters, those charismatic people that had convinced you of the vision and mission actually leave an organization? We've seen so many examples where U-turn policy happens, right? And there's no opportunity to compound the impact that you were trying to get to, because that person's left. And the other person who comes in may not believe in the way to approach it that way. So governance structures actually give longevity to initiatives, because it's not just down to a single person's whims or fancies, or showing up when they feel like it and then doing something else when they don't feel like it. Okay. This is where the whole compounding can happen if there is continuity, if it can live beyond a single person. And governance structure helps us achieve that. So that's why there are things around policies, around systems, around the data that's collected, around corruption, around collaboration, around partnerships. What is the value systems that hold people together? What is the culture that pull people together? Right? And that's the governance part of it. So if you can see these three pillars, why it's important now to then create a condition where human species could survive beyond a single generation, is because number one, in the environment pillar, we're talking about this big operating system. How do we actually work with it? Right. And then the social pillar is actually talking about how do we work within the human experience of needing to be in a sort of communal situation. And then we talk about the governance structure that then pulls together and gives this a continuation, longevity. Yeah. So that essentially is ESG in what I think is as layperson as possible. If you disagree, please type it into the chat, okay? It's completely fine. I am learning too, right? How to actually translate this more into what common people will understand. Because truth be told, I have been immersing in this world since I was 9, and I am already what, at least close to 30 years of dealing with this. So, yeah, feedback is always welcome. And I think this is where conversations like this become important, because I got someone who asked me a question that day. Why would you want to let anybody ask you anything about ESG? And basically, I said to them, because there are a lot of people who have questions about ESG that they don't know who to ask, right? If you hire a consultant to ask them that, then you have to pay for their time. If you go and hire a consultant to ask the most basic thing, the consultant also get frustrated with you because you're asking the most basic questions instead of letting them do the job, right? And then at the same time, you're caught in this limbo of should I do it? Should I not do it? And that indecisiveness is actually what makes ESG so expensive. But what's going to get you decisiveness? Ah, that was a question. So what's going to make you decisive? Okay. Now, from this, my humble opinion, okay, as an ecosystem builder that pulls together various suppliers and vendors and have to deal with many stakeholders, right? Even back in the day when I was working with a research consulting firm, we actually did like a lot of projects for governments before they change program, before they change incentives, before they change policy. They would need to do a lot of stakeholder consultations, and they would need to actually um, gather all this feedback, digest it, and then somehow come out with like a decision. Do they follow through with the incentives they talk about? Do they follow through with the policy they talk about? How are they going to implement those actions? Who to include in those actions, right? So I come from that sort of background and experience. Very lucky that my boss at that time allowed me to be part of the team that was writing the voluntary national review for the sustainable development goals, and before that the millennium development goals. So from coming from a science background of just knowing ecology, environmental science, I actually got exposed to like this wide variety of um, understanding of what sustainability is. Because if you talk to someone who's working on the social pillar part, let's say for vulnerable communities, they're only going to know it from that part, right? They're not going to really talk about it from another part of it, like I don't know, business survival or something like that. They're not going to talk about it from like air pollution unless their vulnerable community is affected by air pollution, right? So therefore, I came from a background where always bringing in a lot of different stakeholders' agendas, digesting it, that was part of my job. So how do you actually become decisive? How do you actually become decisive in ESG? And I already know it that one of my friends, or actually a few of my friends, will say data. Data is going to help you become decisive. And that's correct to some extent. Yeah. How many people think it's data? You can type it in the chat, right? You can put emoji or something if you think it's data that's gonna help you be decisive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There are quite a few people who think data is gonna help you be decisive. Ah, there's some people who say there's something deeper than that. There's something deeper than that. Because when you say data is going to help you be decisive, it depends what data you're collecting. And you can always be biased on what you collect so that the data tells your story. Right? Okay, so what's going to help you be decisive? Yeah, you need to first know how ESG is even related to you. Which is the first thing we said in the live stream, right? That person actually asked a beautiful, amazing question. That's why sometimes we really have to talk to people who don't believe in ESG or don't think they will ever pursue ESG. Because because you learn a lot from them. Because the question was very valid. He said, if I don't even know how ESG is going to like affect me, why would I do it? No matter how beautiful your frameworks are, no matter how much incentives you give us to switch over, if I don't know how it's related to me, I'm not gonna do it, right? And there are two levels of relatedness that I believe is very important for people to actually explore before you can be very decisive in what to do. The first level, of course, is the relatedness to your organization lah. Uh, so if you run a business, then of course you want to know whether ESG is affecting your business. If you are running a civil society organization, you want to know exactly what is it that you represent in your cause, what is it that you're trying to change. Um, or let's say if you're a school or training center, right? And you want to do something or education provider, you want to know how ESG is your role in ESG, right? So having become one of the people who done the I'm going to give you a lot of alphabets again done the IFRS FSA credential. Wow, the whole thing is just alphabets. Okay, essentially, it's basically a standardized way to report your financial situation, taking into consideration all these different topics of sustainability that could affect you lah. Okay. So the first thing that I think organizations really need to do, no matter if they're trying to hire or they're trying to seek for people to give them money and resources so they can do their job, is to really narrow down on what part of sustainability are they actually being impacted on and that they create impact on, right? So give you an example. Uh, I think I had a participant last time that actually said, okay, I am a logistics company. I have no idea why my boss insists that we must put CCTV for our warehousing as a sustainability initiative. And I was like, okay. So did you ask your boss? I said, no, my boss asked me to just do it. I was like, okay. So did you figure it out? He said, no. I was like, you're in the perfect place because we are actually going to look at these standards now. And you can see that one of the things that is very important for investors basically mean people who give you the money and resources to do your job, lah, okay? And get a return on that and get a return on that. They want their money back, okay? So it's something to do around security. Now, if you have a warehouse that's going to be moving a lot of very important products in and out, but you have no idea whether there's anybody illegally using your warehouse to, I don't know, move drugs, move arms, move people, right? And you accidentally allowed them to actually do human trafficking or arms trafficking or drug trafficking from your property, and you have no way to prove that you didn't know about it. And the investors that gave you the money to open the warehouse and run it also didn't know about it. And suddenly the victims went to go after them and sue them. Wow. You're in deep shit, right? You're in deep trouble because you actually didn't have that oversight on, number one, that you could be impacted by someone illegally using your warehouse. And two, that because you allowed them to accidentally use your warehouse to do all this nonsense that's bad for people and society and planet, you actually allowed more violence to appear in this world. Yeah. So can you see that two levels where one is how you are being impacted by it, and the second is how you are impacting it as a result of either consciously or unconsciously allowing those activities to continue. Yeah. Mm. So that's the first level, right? From an organization standpoint. Of course, we can go even deeper next time lah. When we talk about how is this going to affect the finances of the company lah. Um, but this is like it's as simple an example I can think of so far. If you have simpler examples, feel free to drop it in to the chat. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to elaborate on it. I'd love to actually spar with you guys. And so that's the first level, which is organizational level relatedness, right? So your organization could either lose the revenue, you could either increase costs or have unmanaged expansion of costs, right? Like for example, like the wars happening, if businesses didn't see it coming, right? Now time already. You got a lot of various costs suddenly blow up, right? So revenue is affected. The cost of you running your operations is affected. And it's not just businesses, even you civil society organizations or NGOs or non-profits or social enterprises or community-based organizations or government. If you didn't see those topics coming and actually seeing it as a risk which you had a plan to deal with, then you probably would have seen some sort of cost increase lah, to run your operation. So your revenue is affected, your cost is affected, your assets and your liabilities affected, especially if it's stuck in certain geographical regions and cannot come out because other people don't let you to pass through. And number four is your access to capital is affected. Because if you couldn't even give back that money to the people who already gave you some money to do something, who would want to give you more money? Who would want to give you more resources, right? Comes back to the trust currency law. So if let's say you did your governance well, you got enough confidence that you can give to them and say, trust me again. I just need a bit more so that I can, get my operations back on track, and I'll be able to run well, deliver the impact that I intended to do, be it in terms of the money I'm supposed to repay to you or the impact to society and environment. um, you know, Trust me, right? This is where governance structures, governance processes will help you to build that currency of trust. Yeah. So what is the second level of relatedness then? If organization, right, is understandable lah, huh? You impact people, people impact you. Of course, it's a risk. You manage the risk. Okay, fine. But do you feel the whole conversation is up here in your brain? It stays up here in the front part some more. That's why you feel sometimes it'll be painful here. And I recently learned that if you actually like feel it's painful, or you like cannot process too much of your brain, it cannot process all this thing in sustainability or anything in your life, this very natural action of pressing on your forehead when people say, "Oh my God," oh my God, this natural human action actually is an evolutional built-in for us to calm our body and bring our thinking brain back online instead of going to the back of our head where our fight or flight or freeze response is kicking in. That's why there are some people when they're in that mode, when they're like something catastrophic happen, something big happen, something they like completely surprised, didn't expect happen. You either see they will hold the front of the head or they will hold the back of their head. Because both these very natural human evolution actions is to calm your body down and bring back your thinking brain back online. Okay, so if anytime you feel too stressed, yeah, you can hold your front of your head or you can hold the back of it so that you're not caught up in all your emotions, and you bring back your thinking brain online. So that second layer of how does ESG even affect me actually is a very personal thing, because we don't only operate up here. How many of you actually feel it before that sometimes in life something just feels right, and then you do it, and then it works out, even though you had no idea why or no idea how? Because it feels right, you find a way to do it. Mm. And this is why, if you want people to actually do anything in ESG, training is not enough. What does training do? Training talks to this part of your body, the thinking part, but it doesn't talk to this part of your body, the emotional part, which more people feel it down here in your heart lah. Okay, yeah. Because when we look at the emotions, and my coach like to say, emotion is energy in motion. We do a lot of things not because we know it's right, it's because we feel it's right, right? We do a lot of actions because not because we think of the logical steps first. It's because like deep down somewhere, something feels like doing it. So how do we actually tap into that emotional part of it? We really have to move the ESG thinking and narrative, not only from here, but down to here in the heart, the emotional connection that we have. And therefore, when people start saying, "Oh, I cannot convince that person," okay, number one, maybe that's not the right person to talk to lah. But secondly, is that are you actually meeting them where they are? Mm. Are you actually meeting them where they are? Are you connecting with them with what they care about, and then showing it how it's connected? And thankfully, sustainability, just like life, ESG, just like life, everything is connected in one way or another, right? Like when some people say, "Oh, I wish my kids would grow up in a place where they can just go run out of the house and play with their friends like the good old days, and no danger in the street, and everything is like so they can just play in the river lah, so clean." Okay, so all the people working to keep rivers clean, Yeah. Are they related to you? Yeah. All the people working to keep neighborhoods safe, rebuild communities, make sure that people have a way to earn a living without necessarily going for violence or doing illegal activities. Are they important to you? Yeah, right? Yeah, they are all ESG topics lah. These are all ESG topics. Find out first what people care about and then connect with them there. Because when they tell you why this is important to them, that's your entry point to actually have that conversation. Because we're not here to convince anyone. We're actually here to connect with them and then show them the possibilities of how what you are doing is connected to what they care about. And then inviting them to explore it a bit more. And when you can do that, the pressure's off you. Pressure's off you. They can make the choice whether to join you or not join you, right? But you allow them to realize that. And when you allow them to realize that, and when you allow them to realize that they always have a choice in terms of how they want to live their lives and what is it the impact that they want to create while being alive, it's very empowering. And it's not about what skills you have. Like someone told me, someone asked me a question that I don't know which certification to get in order to do something in sustainability. How many of you had that question also? Which qualification or certification should I do in order to get into sustainability, in order to do anything in ESG? And they look at me and say, Lijin, you're the chairperson of Circular Business Association, you're the lead trainer for ESG Ready. Surely you got some answers lah, right? I said to the person, well, it really depends what you want to do in your life. Because you can get involved with ESG in so many ways. So what is it that you want? What fulfills you? What do you care about? What skills, when you apply it, you feel like, whoa, time flies by. I didn't even realize it. I was enjoying it so much. And that's where you can apply yourself in ESG. And you just need a little bit more clarity and help, then talk to us lah. Don't try and figure it out on your own. Because it can take, truth be told, it can take more than a decade before you find something that really is in your zone and you feel like you're applying it self-fully. So brings me to another question. Someone actually wrote here. Coming from civil society, what role can we play to ensure corporations are supporting the work we do at grassroots level for the well-being of the people? What role can we play to ensure corporations are supporting the work we do at grassroots level for the well-being of people? Mm, okay. I think we need to unpack that question. We need to unpack the question. And come back to also what we said just now. Why would corporations support you? What value are you bringing to the table? And when I say value, it's not just finances, and and I know I come from that upbringing of like, so long as there's clean air, so long as there's safe neighborhoods, it's more than enough already to say why you should support me, because we benefit everyone. That's true. That's true. But if I'm running a corporation, does that actually translate to something that is going to affect me right now? Or even if not right now, but affect me in the medium to long term lah. At least I know lah. So when we start grouping it into these big categories of corporations and civil society, right? Are we actually bringing people to sit next to each other, or are we sitting opposite each other trying to convince each other otherwise? So from my own humble perception, I believe that we may not be able to change entire corporations to support the work that you do. Okay, because corporations, they are they need profit in order to survive. If they cannot survive, then whatever positive impact that they wanted to deliver to this world doesn't exist. And if you think deeper, actually any civil society organization, any non-profit, any government entity, any academic or research institution faces the same question. Are we going to make sure that we can survive? Now, of course, you can do barter trading lah. I think a lot of volunteer organizations do a lot of in-kind type of exchanges. People exchange their time, people sponsor, people donate, right? But there's still resources and there's still finances that's needed to happen. And corporations actually do have to make certain hard decisions in terms of what's going to allow them to accumulate that type of resources so that they can do more of the impact that they wanted to do. Now, money doesn't necessarily, now I would say money doesn't make you bad. It's like a knife doesn't make you bad, but how you use the knife can make you bad, right? And even if you did use a knife in a bad way previously, nothing is stopping you from making a decision at some point in time to stop using that knife in a bad way. It's the same with money. Money actually amplifies the values that people originally already had. So I would say if you wanted, from the civil society, if you wanted to ensure these corporations are supporting the work that you do at grassroots level, I think number one, you need to know which are the corporations that actually have values that are committed to delivering positive impact, and you want to try and support them as much as possible. And it's not only through choosing which product to buy, it's also in terms of uh, all the different occupations that's needed for corporations to run. Be it, it doesn't matter if you're a product designer, a material scientist, most people think that's what they do. Only those people involved. But it could also be their ad agency. You could be their accountant. You could be their lawyer. You could be their admin staff. You could be their canteen auntie that prepares tea. You could even be their general manager, their CEO, their CFO, your COO, or even the driver. It doesn't actually matter which skill sets you bring to these corporations. It's whether or not you bring that intention that when you perform in your occupation, it will generate positive impacts. And these values align with you personally as well. Of course, some people say like, yeah, it's not like I always have the choice, right? It's like I need a certain pay, need a certain companies. There are only that many companies within my choice, and not everyone's going to hire me, right? That's true. That's true. And that's why it's not surprising that a lot of younger generation today are holding back from entering the market, employment market, because they're looking for good corporations that share their values. And if they're going to go to the grind, it's at least something that is going to be grinding them for something worthwhile and taking care of them. So I would say that you can only convince by leading your own life. You cannot lead anybody else's life. You can give feedback. You can organize campaigns and things like that. But at the core of it, what is it that we are doing in those rooms? Are we connecting or are we blaming? Are we offering ourselves forward as a potential solution partner? Or are we saying, you take responsibility. There is, of course, lots that will take time to change. And from Circular Business Association's vision that I've set forward, I've always believed that if we can empower great companies with the great solutions that can solve these sustainability challenges, and they have the right culture, the right business management systems, and the right values, plus the right support of people around them to keep lifting them up in this very lonely journey, then we can change the world rapidly. But if good people continue to shy away from corporations or allow themselves to believe that charity is enough, then we're very limited in terms of what civil society can do. So look at all the hats that you're wearing. Yeah? Look at all the hats I'm wearing. And it took me a while to come to terms with this because I realized that I was not just, I thought I was like an ecosystem builder, chairperson, association. Yeah, yeah. But I'm also a mom. I'm also part of the auntie groups that talk around the neighborhood, that mobilize when school requires us to mobilize. And the more that I enrich myself with what solutions are possible out there and who are the right people that share values with me, the more I can bring those resources to all these different spheres and groups that I belong to. I can change how I teach my children. I can change how her friends experience coming to our house and the type of information they get exposed to. I can change how I interact in the school. I can change how I interact with my neighbors. I change how I interact with the businesses that I buy from, the people that work in those businesses, the people on public transport, maybe that I just happen to chat with, the people I meet online, the people I meet at conferences, the people that I just happen to share a random passion of swing dancing with. We wear so many different hats. And maybe now you're going to ask the next question lah. Isn't it tiring to try and change at every sphere? You are correct. It's tiring. So don't do everyone. Choose the one that gives you the most fulfillment, that makes you feel surrounded by the people who can hold your ambition, who can understand you, and that will stretch you to become a better version of yourself. And that includes also making a whole lot of money from it. Because when you are empowered to make a whole lot of money because the people around you who are doing positive work in the world and have the abilities to make a lot of money, imagine what you can slap onto the table when people say, this one cannot be done, even though it's the right thing to do. Imagine as a civil society, you can walk into those meetings and they agree. The policy, yeah, that's the right thing to do. And they agree, we have to do it now. And then they say, but we don't know who we can rely on, who can get it done for us. But we don't have the money, we don't have the time, we're already so stretched already. And you can offer yourself forward to get it done because you have the money and resources to do so. And also the network and the inner alignment to make sure it's not going to do all this greenwashing nonsense. If you care deeply as a civil society person, participant, and you don't step up, then that vacuum is going to be filled by somebody else who doesn't care that much, and they're also going to charge for it. Mm. So then there's a question: should we feel shy to ask people for money to support us to do all this grassroots initiative? No, but you have to get very clear about what value you deliver in return lah. Mm. If let's say you're saying I can mobilize people like that, then that's the value you're delivering, right? So when people go to community projects, right, often they'll say, like, oh, um, oh, I remember this story when I was much younger. I was working as a volunteer in a center lah. It's one of those nature-based centers lah. And they actually got funding, from HSBC for 5 years to run environmental education program about that nature site. Okay. And in the third year, HSBC pulled the funding. And then I'm not going to support this organization already. And it's a big hoo-ha. That, oh, HSBC is, they say they care about the environment. They're investing in our future. What nonsense is it? How they pull the funding? Blah 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 like that. And we had to ask why. Why did they pull the funding? And you start exploring deeper. The value that the organization was supposed to deliver is the connection to all these school-going children, from the sort of preteens to your teenager, right? So that they feel connected to a nature site, so that they can be inspired to do something in society that would protect this type of nature sites. And that they would mobilize like 5,000 students in 5 years. By the third year, they mobilized less than what, 400. So if you were someone who had the money and resources like HSBC, and there's so many other proposals on your table that would give you connection to school-going children so that they would feel inspired and connected to a nature site and then take action to build a better future, do you think you would want to keep your money in an organization that can barely meet its KPI? Or would you want to take up another proposal where they have been showing more track record that they can engage these children properly, that they have a systematic way to reach those 5,000 students? I don't know about you, but I prefer my money to be used in a better place lah. So it doesn't matter whether you're actually doing business or whether you're doing a non-profit to some extent. If you're not clear who is it that you serve and what is the value that you deliver, you're not going to be able to command that resources or price that you ask for, or support that you ask for. Because just saying, yeah, I support you, it's cheap. Right? You put my brand logo there, lah, I give you some recognition, I get my PR company to do something, that's cheap. But does that deliver transformation? So when we start getting clear about these things, ESG is not just a compliance thing. Of course, it's painful, lah. But imagine if you were HSBC and you needed to do compliance, but you found partners in different geographies that really help you make make into reality the impact that you had envisioned in your plan. Would you feel like that money spent on, on that partner is more worth it or not worth it? You can type in the chat like everything is worth it or not worth it. Worth it, right? Mm. And that's why our impact can only grow as much as we are willing to grow. Because if we are not even willing to acknowledge what is the value that we can bring to the table, if we're not even willing to acknowledge there's more that I can do to enhance that value that I bring to the table, then why would people support you? If that connection to your community members is the value that you bring to the table so that action can happen faster. do you actually truly deliver that? What steps have you taken to improve that? And that's a question I always think as well in terms of Circular Business Association. That's why if you're going to read our soon to be released annual report for the fourth year, you see that every year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, we're evolving. We're trying lots of things. Fail a lot of things also. But because the mission is clear, the big why is clear, we just keep adjusting the how until we get there. Mm. So you had another question. Mm. Is it too late to get involved with ESG? Jokingly, sometimes I ask people, well, have you died yet? No. You haven't died, then it's never too late lah. Sometimes even in death, you can make a difference, right? Recently I hear a lot of advertisements on the UK radio stations, and they always say, leave a legacy, include us in your will. It doesn't matter if it's the National Trust that protects like natural areas and countryside and big houses, or it's people, international doctors going to conflict areas. They always say, oh, leave us in your will. Even in your death also you can change. Can change other people's lives. And at that juncture, I think something that Buddha actually shared um, is actually quite true. Because even if you were someone who had used the knife in a bad way, you always have a choice at this moment in time to change what's going to happen in the next moment in time, right? So you can't change your past. You definitely can't do anything about your future until it comes. But it's in this moment that you can choose to do something differently. So with that, I guess the question comes back to what is it that you care about, that you feel fulfilled when you do something that impacts other people's lives? And if you're clear about that, then it's a matter of only seeing how to apply the various skills, networks, experiences into that. And ESG is actually very close to your life. Mm. Okay, right. So, any other questions about ESG? Someone did previously ask me this question. Mm. Why do we have to do a product carbon footprint? What's a footprint? Okay. Footprint just means like how much impact that you create lah. Uh, like you go walking on the beach, you will leave footprints, right? Yeah. So the analogy is like that lah. So long as you're going somewhere, you're doing something, you're gonna have some sort of footprint lah. Uh, so it means how much impact that you have there. And of course, the footprint can be positive. It can also be negative. But in this day and age, when you're talking about measuring your footprint, typically people are talking about the negative impact that you have lah. Okay. Yeah. So when you do product carbon footprint, you're trying to measure how much carbon dioxide gas or other types of greenhouse gases like methane gas, nitrous oxides, etc., that have been released into the air. Because these gases is what making our earth having a fever now. And therefore, if we can measure for each product um, how much impact it creates, then we can use data to give us some clarity on what we want to do about it. We can choose to ignore it. We can choose to design it in a different way so that we can deliver the performance in that people need in a completely different way. And circular economy is definitely in that realm where it says we can we can still meet people's needs and wants in a complete different way, right? So be creative, and circular economy gives you some principles to help you be creative in that front. Yeah. You can also choose to just a do some minor changes to it so that you don't do so much bad lah. But that's what I call the recycling economy mindset lah, which is you're just doing less bad. Whereas the circular economy mindset is talking about doing more good intentionally, right? So it's not just doing less bad, but actually how do we build in more good lah. Mm. Yeah. So when you do a product carbon footprint, it's so that people can then compare lah between product A, product B, product C, which one is actually releasing more of these gases that is currently um, too much is released already. So the one to have that much. Yeah. Mm. That's as layperson as I can say lah, product carbon footprint. Okay. Yeah. Okay, right. So we are at the top of the hour already. For those of you who've joined me to the end, thank you very much for staying for this Ask Me Anything ESG. The more questions that you submit to this, the more that I can address the questions that you have. And yeah, as I said, don't take it like this is one-way communication. I love sparring with you guys because the more that we understand each other, the more that I can meet you where you are and help you in your journey to understanding how ESG is relevant to you and what you want to do so that you can actually lead a fulfilling life while also leaving a lot more positive impact, not only for your own lifetime, but also the lifetime of the generations to come. So, with that, thanks very much for joining me on this Ask Me Anything ESG. If you're watching the replay and there's a bunch of questions or thoughts or comments that you have, please feel free to write to us. Yeah, I'd love to address some of these questions that you have in the next live stream that we have. So, hope to see you next time. Take care, everyone. Thanks for spending time with me. Bye.